POC Network here with another unboxing. This is something unique this time around. It is an HDMI wireless transmission system. Specifically, it's the Hollyland Mars 400 1080p wireless dual HDMI video transmission system. Lots of words. But it's kind of like a wireless lav unit, and it's for mobile rigs and stationary rigs alike, but in situations where you don't really have the luxury of running an HDMI cable for a very long distance. Of course, HDMI only can run so far before it starts to degrade, before you switch to something like fiber or SDI or another solution. Or you go wireless. This is a 5 gigahertz solution that can go up to 400 feet, which is actually pretty impressive for 5 gigahertz. And like I said, it's just like a wireless lav solution for your camera setup or anything else. You have your transmitter and you have your receiver. The receiver has dual HDMI, which is really nice because the transmitter is going to plug into your camera, whatever your setup may be, DSLR or video camera, whatever. And the receiver is going to, be on the side of, let's say, a stationary record setup that you have with drives and other devices that's taking that information in. And you're able to separate, both of those by up to 400 feet. Line of sight, of course, so buildings are going to reduce that distance greatly when you have things in between like walls and whatnot. You have up to 8 channels to select from for your wireless frequencies to bounce between the two within the 5 gigahertz range. It has automatic channel scanning, so it'll just scan for you for between the channels at least to determine which channel is what really works best for your environment. And it can support up to 5 kits within the same area. So if you have 5 sets of these running around, cameras and receiving all over the place, within the same kind of area, you can have up to 5 of those going on without having to have any kind of interference or degradation in whatever you're trying to capture. And similar to wireless microphones, you can have multiple receivers, that's all capturing the same exact transmitter, with some limitations, of course, where you can have up to 2 receivers of the actual Mars 400 receivers receiving one single transmitter, so that way it gives you up to 4 HDMI outputs, which is pretty nice. And of course, you can expand further from there, but there are some limitations where, you can have those 2 receivers, or you can have 1 receiver and up to 4 app monitoring receivers, which is you're actually using an Android or an iOS phone. If you download the app, you can actually monitor it wirelessly straight to your phone, and you can do that up to 4 devices plus 1 receiver. So there are some limitations, but it's mostly bandwidth more than anything else. And let's be honest, how many receivers do you absolutely need for something like this? So it really does have a lot of power to it, which is really nice. You have 3 scene modes. And this is controlling latency, and it helps you balance between, picture quality and speed is really what it is. So you got, picture quality, which is going to be much better picture, and but with a sacrifice of latency, so you're going to get a little extra lag there. You got, balance in the middle for one of the scenes, and then you have speed. So you're probably going to take a little bit of a sacrifice in the resolution, maybe, or quality. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more compressed going between the 2 devices in exchange for not higher, but lower latency. So you're not going to experience as much lag. And they are promising as little as 0.1 seconds for the latency, which is pretty darn good. So your eyes aren't going to really see much of that. It's very minimal. In addition to everything, you can power it up via battery, or you can power it up via external 12-volt DC, and which I believe it does come with. We haven't really opened it up yet. We broke the first seal here, so it is exciting. You can power it up externally via a wall wart somewhere, a plug somewhere, or you can do it via batteries. And so it really extends upon your different scenarios of usage. And that was a lot of talking. So I just gave you a whole review there without of just the specs alone, and we haven't even looked at it yet. So let's dig inside the box and see what it looks like. So the first thing you come to is a thank you for being so amazing, and it just tells you to reach out to them if you like them or not. This specific set comes with a little extra accessory here, and this is just for the purposes of mounting it to your rig with. So you got your transmitter. You can just, screw this into a typical threaded part of your camera setup either on the tripod or a camera cage or the hot/cold shoe converter that has a thread. capability on it. So that way you can put the transmitter right there if you don't want to go with a cold shoe or another solution of your own. And then you have the actual device. And it's really small, so there's not a lot to it. The weight's not too bad for something you're going to be adding to a camera rig like that, so especially if it's something you're going to be running around with. This is going to be nice. You have a little instruction here, just a description that tells you what all the different options are, all the different buttons on here, and how to attach it to a tripod and or camera, turning on the device, connect to power supply, and so forth. So you have, looks to be the receiver here, because we have two HDMI inputs here, and looks like your DC out for power. You have your threaded adapter right there, so you can have it sitting on a tripod just about anywhere and or on the camera rig itself, like I explained. You have a USB Type-C input here for upgrading the firmware of it, an on and off switch right here, and you have your antenna ports here that are protected by these two yellow caps that you can get rid of. They're bouncy. On the back of it, you have a battery dock here, so you can slide a battery on there. It supports multiple different types of batteries, and you want to check the specs to make sure you have the battery that will fit this, else you will be going to buy one. And I almost forgot, you got three buttons right here in the center. You have they're really shown by two arrows going left and right, and the middle is a square, but what that's going to be for is moving around and configuring the menu system. And then on both the receiver and transmitter right above here is an OLED screen, so that way everything you're looking at is, easy to look at. Then you have the transmitter. This is the part that goes to the camera. I already took off the little caps off the antennas, but it's quite similar to the receiver. You have the USB port, the Type-C port for upgrading the firmware with. You have an on and off switch, and then you have your camera, or at least your thread. So even though I was talking about it here, either one can make use of those threads. You have your battery input on the back, and you have, similar to that, you have two HDMIs. Only difference is these are HDMI inputs. This is an HDMI in and an HDMI loop through, which just means like if you were previously using like a Q monitor or anything like that, you can still loop through and go to that while still making use of the system, and then that you don't have to worry about, sending it somewhere else or any of that stuff. You're pretty much well taken care of, both local and remote to wherever the receiver is sitting. And then of course you have your external output here for power and your menu buttons, and that's it. So it's really simple in terms of the interface. And again, for when it comes to weight, it's not really much more than what you're going to see with a wireless receiver for a wireless microphone, like a lav mic that would be sitting on top of the camera. So it's pretty cool. You have multiple antennas here. And by multiple, I mean 5 antennas. Hard to get to here. But basically, 2 for this guy, 2 for this guy, and apparently you get an extra one in case you're sloppy and you decide to lose one of these, or you damage one, which hopefully never happens. And we got some accessories here. Let's find out if it comes with a battery. I don't think it comes with a battery. I think you're on your own for that. I might be wrong though. Let's see. So you have a number of accessories here that are in that box. And unfortunately, fortunately, it comes with an AC adapter. So big plus right there. You don't have to go out and buy one. If you do need one, it's a 12 volt DC adapter, so it's no big deal. Just make sure you match up to the type and everything. Or you can probably buy one from Hollyland if you need to. But chances are the one on the camera is going to be making use of a battery, so you're not going to have to worry about that too much. You have an adapter here that goes on here to adapt it to US standard for your outlet, and I'm sure they also have other adapters if you want to adapt it to European or anything else. It does not come with a battery, so the battery's on you. So it does support like 3 different types of batteries. So check out the specs on it to make sure that it does match up to whatever batteries you have in stock. And if not, then you might have to buy into a battery to make use of it, because the transmitter is going to be working on a battery where your receiver could be on a battery as well, or you may be looking to use something like this. You have multiple different adaptions here to control the angle of how it's being mounted. So it all depends on your camera rig and how everything's sorted. So if you're using the cage, for example, depending on where it's mounting to the cage might determine how you want this to be angled. So you got plenty of adapters here to work with. And you also have a USB Type-C to USB converter here, or adapter, which will plug into the side here for those firmware upgrades in case all you have is just a regular, Type A USB cable. So that's it. It's incredibly simple. There's not a lot going on here with this, and there doesn't need to be. It needs to be simple. It needs to be lightweight, which it is, and it doesn't need to be too annoying when it comes to the user interface or anything like that, or setting everything up, which is a good thing that they didn't go into that direction. Now, again, this could be used in so many different situations. You can use it inside of a studio like this if you so choose. Maybe you have a control room, in another area of the building or right next door, and you don't want to run the HDMI. Thankfully, we have ports all ran throughout the walls in this building, so we're good, but you could use it in that situation. Or maybe let's say you're outdoors. Let's say you're running around with a DSLR camcorder in Africa and you're crawling around in the grass to get that really nice shot, video shot of, a tiger or something like that, or a chimpanzee in a tree, and while your assistant or whoever's helping you record video is in maybe a truck somewhere, is receiving the signal wirelessly. So that way you don't have to have an HDMI signal ran all over the place, and you're not recording directly to the camera itself. Or maybe you're doing a commercial show, maybe broadcast, or maybe you're doing, a corporate convention or something, and you're in a giant ballroom shooting video. You got a camera running around the stage, and you don't want to run triacs all over the place or something. You can just do HDMI out of the camera into the transmitter here and send this to your video village out back behind the stage and capture everything neatly and wirelessly, so you don't have to worry about all that extra setup time and equipment. So this can avoid all of that, and again, if it actually does live up to the 0.1 second for the transmission latency, for minimum transmission latency, then you should be doing pretty good. Of course, that's probably with the speed scenario setting or scene mode, so we don't know exactly how much we're going to lose on the actual picture quality. But, hey, so far, what we're looking at here is a pretty incredible device for a pretty incredible price, as long as it works. But that's the question. Does it work? And let's give it a try. So, this is what it looks like. Well, that is what it looks like. It is running right now. What we did is we just tapped into the TV that's on our set here and just ran it to the receiver, and the transmitter's connected to the camera. And voila, now we have everything working, and it was flawless. In terms of setting it up, it was plug and play. We plugged it into the camera, plugged it in over here, turned both on instantly. Well, not instantly. It took a few seconds for it to boot up and make connection. What you're looking at behind me is a 1080 image because the Mars 400 only supports 1080. So it works. So we got a 4K setup here, streaming to a 4K TV, but in 1080p, and the delay is not too bad at all. I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, you can see my hand here. It's, obviously there's a little bit of delay. We have it set to picture mode, or in terms of the scene, so it's preferencing picture more than speed. So that way you get an idea of what the worst case scenario is going to be for any kind of delay. And even cooler, it does transmit audio as well, not just video. So since we just happen to have a speaker bar on set here, I'm going to unmute it here, and now I'm going to talk. Of course, now we're getting that loop effect. Oh no! So there you go. 1080p, wireless transmission successfully done, at least from this distance, which isn't really that far away, to be honest, but you can get up to 400 feet with line of sight, open line of sight with this, which is pretty cool. So there it is. It's a pretty cool device, especially for the price, and it works. And now if you need no latency whatsoever, good luck, because that's really hard to do with video. So this isn't a surprise whatsoever. We're not really turned off by that because of the fact that it's hard to have zero latency in video without an actual cable running back and forth. Wireless video transmission is very tricky. I mean, in our building here, we have fiber running all over the place. We have gigabit internet. We have a multi-gigabit network running through internally within the building, and yet still wireless, you're limited to what wireless can handle. Of course, technology is increasing with 5G and everything else, 5G internet at least, or cellular, entering the world, and you got your 6G routers, there's a lot of, or Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6 routers. There's a lot of potential in terms of wireless transmission, and video is only going to get better. But for now, what you're looking at is 5 gigahertz, which is incredible when it compares to something like 2.4 or less. Because you're going to get more speed with the sacrifice of range, but range really isn't an issue with this thing because, again, you have up to 400 feet. So it's incredible. So again, there you have it. It's the Hollywood Mars 400 1080p wireless HDMI, dual HDMI video transmission system. So many words there. It's a fantastic device. It runs between $500 and $600. It is expensive, you know, but comparing it to some of the stuff that we buy here that you normally find in the prosumer market, it's not that bad. So it works, it's nice. You could definitely take this out in the open and shoot with it. It's user-friendly. It does, again, operate off of battery or DC. We have battery right now running on the transmitter that's connected to the camera, which you do have to supply yourself, and we have the receiver behind us running off the provided cable. So if you liked what you've seen here, don't forget to check us out online at POCnetwork.net. We have all sorts of content for you to be able to just absorb. And there's a subscription button right down below there where you can click on it and follow us, as well as a comment section so we can all talk about this. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you have one of these? How does it work for you? What do you use it for? You know, whatever the case may be, feel free to use the comments below because we'd love to hear from you. And as always, we thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. If you want to stay on top of all the latest and greatest, and or at least the gadgets we cover, remember to subscribe right here. Subscription button. Click it. You're going to want to. There's lots of videos, interviews, previews, all sorts of stuff. Button. Click it.